Okay, so I believe there's always like a time and place to do things. And either it's doing the devil's tango or doing, you know, basically anything with your like your genitalia level. Anyways, it doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that there's a time and place for everything. But let's just say this was neither the time or the place for this to happen. And let's just say I ended up getting the consequence for it because whoop-de-doo, my life seems to be one of the most craziest things on the planet for some reason, which is very shocking because a lot of you guys say like, oh, these stories are so fake. I don't know how this guy can lie to all of us and the whole entire internet about his life, which is not true. These are all true stories. And you know, one day I hope I can prove it to you guys. But anyways, let's get straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another crazy story. So like I said, this story would happen to me back when I was in middle school. You see, I didn't go to the most coolest middle school, nor did I go to the most average middle school. Because as you guys know, middle school is the transition from going from boy to alpha male, or from going from girl to woman, or basically anything you want to be. I don't know, it's a touchy subject there, but anyways, like I was saying though, basically is when you start hitting puberty is what I'm saying. And you know, when you're hitting puberty, you would tend to do things you don't really expect. Like for me, for example, I remember, you know, I told the story when I did it in front of Grand Theft Auto 5. You guys should definitely go check out that video. It was very, very funny. And apparently you guys loved it. But obviously there is more that comes to it. And I remember one time at school, this wasn't me specifically, but let's just say I was a part of it. And it scarred me for life. Basically, I remember when I was back in middle school, there was like, well, this computer lab that we always had. And I remember every like Tuesday, we would go to the computer lab and we would do some kind of homework or some kind of typing skills or all that stuff. Like I remember when I was in middle school, there were like these cool typing games you could do. And it was actually very entertaining. I'm not gonna lie. I still play some of them to this day. That's probably why I can write 80 words per minute, or type 80 words per minute, I should say. But this specific time, we were all doing homework in the computer lab. And I remember in the computer lab, I was sitting with like 4 of my friends and my crush was sitting like across from me, like on the other computer. And there was always this one weird kid sitting in the corner of the classroom. And I mean like the very, very corner. Like the corner where basically if you didn't want the teacher to see something, she wouldn't see it. But I remember this one specific time where, like I said, we were all doing homework and we were actually doing work that needed to get done. But then we had like some kind of pop quiz show up. And I remember my teacher walking in saying, all right, guys, it's time to do a pop quiz for what you just studied for. And little did I know it was like an assessment on the computer we had to do. So obviously we all ended up doing the assessment. We all like, you know, we all did basically the pop quiz per se. But the weirdest thing started happening as I was like halfway through my quiz. I remember looking at the corner of the room, seeing the weird kid, and he was already done his quiz. But for some reason, he kept grunting. And like, basically he was like kind of like, oh, like, I don't know how to explain it to you guys. Basically, this kid was moaning in the corner of his classroom. And every time I looked at him, he was always looking down as if he was sad, like he usually was. But at this time, I don't think he was sad. I think he was doing something more extreme. I kept looking at him, looking at my assessment quiz, and looking back at him. And he kept shaking his arm as if he was having like a spasm attack. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. This guy was definitely doing what this title says of this video, and you are 100% correct. At this moment, I realized that he was looking down at his phone, watching the devil's tango, and beating his meat. Literally beating it live in the computer classroom. At this moment, I was freaking out. I was kind of grossed out at first, but I was like kind of like, oh my gosh, like how can he do that in a computer lab? And then I remember like kind of like being grossed out, and my crush looked over at me from across the computer. Like she kind of like leaned over to the side and looked at me, and she's like, is everything all right? Obviously I'm like, yeah, like, you know, like I'm chilling, you know, I'm acting cool, you know, because it's my middle school crush. But then I remember looking back at him, at the kid who was beating his meat, and he just kept moaning. It was the most weirdest thing in the world. But let's just say the teacher didn't hear it because, well, obviously she wasn't close enough to hear him grunt or moan or anything like that. But it was pretty obvious I could. So I want to say like 10 minutes went by, and like the grunting and moaning basically stopped, and he let out a noise going, oh. Now I know it's sus for me to moan on the mic. Trust me, I believe it. But if you guys do follow my Twitch streams and watch me on Twitch, you guys would understand like this is like a normal thing I do. By the way, follow me on Twitch, link down below, and join the Discord for any updates. Seriously, it's worth it. But other than a basic promo, like I just did, sorry about that, he did basically, I should say, finish. And this is where the most weirdest thing happens. And let's just say why I get involved in the story. After he was was finished beating his meat, we all had to basically stand up after our assessment quiz and choose basically a computer seat to mark everyone's work. Or you know how basically like teachers like make you like mark other students' work because it's easier for them not to mark it for you. Yeah, that's basically what we had to do. So I remember everyone was like choosing like whose work to mark. Like, oh, I'll mark your work. Oh, I'll mark your work. Oh, I'll mark your work. And me standing there, seeing no one wanted to mark my work and no one wanted me to mark their work was the most saddest thing, because little did I know, the kid who was beating his meat walked up behind me, put his hand on my shoulder that he used to go sicko mode on himself, said, "Hey, you want to like mark my work?" Oh my God. I remember turning around, kind of like walking backwards and saying, yeah, sure, here's my seat. I took out my seat for him, made him sit down, and I went to his seat. Now, at first when I sat down on his seat, yes, I was weirded out, but I remember basically like, you know, going through his work, and this kid was smart. He finished the test early, I guess fast enough to start doing his own little business. But basically, as I was basically putting a bunch of check marks on his screen, I remember I looked down and I saw there was some kind of white goo on his chair. And I remember, well, actually, funny enough, we actually made a word for it. It's not called white goo specifically, because we're gonna call it devil's cream. You guys chose that word on Twitch, so if you guys want many more devil words, then just go on the live streams like I said earlier. Sorry for another promo. It's just I had to. Shout out to you who said devil's cream. But yeah, basically, I looked down and I saw that. I saw the devil's cream sitting literally right between my legs. And as I started to like basically look down, I saw there was more on the ground near my shoe. Luckily, I didn't step on it, but it was near my shoe. Now, at this moment, I was grossed out and I was basically like, oh my goodness. Like, let's just say I really actually wanted to puke. Like, you know that feeling you get in your throat when you had too much to drink or you're about to puke, basically? That was me at this moment. And me even thinking about it right now literally makes me want to puke. But I remember, like, it was gross, okay? Like, I don't know how else to explain it to you guys. You guys get the gist of it. I basically saw him and his devil's cream. But then the saddest thing happened. As I was putting check marks, trying to speed run this thing, not even checking if the answers were actually correct, I remember my middle school crush walked by me. She walked by me to basically say, like, are you okay? Because she saw me kind of panicking when I was doing the test in the first place. And her being all smart and beautiful and amazing and sorry, I'm simping here, but you know what I mean. I remember she looked at me and then she looked at my chair and then she looked at the ground and she's like, what did you do? Bruh, there is no way this kid's going to do the devil's cream on his chair and my middle school crush is going to think I did it just because he couldn't handle himself. This is an absolute joke. So I remember turning to her saying, oh no, it wasn't me. Like, I don't know. It was basically that weird kid. I don't know what to say. Like, like I was stuttering. Okay. I was basically stuttering because at this moment I had a bad stutter and her seeing me stutter basically made her conclude that I was the one who did it. So I remember at lunch, everyone was basically talking about me and how basically I did the devil's cream on the chair. That joke lasted for a week. And long story short, eventually I put a note on my desk's crush saying what actually happened. And she ended up spreading the word. And yeah, you know, after a week of dealing with it, things kind of moved on. But let's just say it was the worst day of my life and I never want to experience that again. So if you are a kid in middle school, please don't beat at school. Just don't. At most, do it in the toilet. Actually, don't. I have a bad story about that too. Never mind. Anyways, like I always say, guys, thank you so much for listening. I seriously love you guys and all the support you guys have been giving to the videos and the channels. Make sure you guys subscribe to the shorts channel and the main channel for more of these amazing stories. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace.